All right, let's jump right into this explainer and tackle a huge mystery. Why do so many of us literally feel completely wiped out, anxious, and just totally overwhelmed by daily life? You know that feeling, right? It's like this universal condition we're all dealing with. But what if I told you that this exhaustion you're feeling isn't some glitch in your personal operating system? It's actually a completely predictable reaction to the totally wild world we're living in right now. When I first came across this quote from Dr. Seth Capehart, man, it was a real game changer. It completely reframed things for me. Listen closely. You are not fundamentally broken. No, it's just that the environment we've constructed over the last century or so is completely out of sync with our basic hardwired biology. So all those health issues and that severe brain fog, it's not just bad luck. It's what happens when you take a species built for one very specific environment and drop it into something that looks like an alien planet. And you can see the real-world stakes of this everywhere. I mean, just look at our ER waiting rooms and psychology clinics. They're literally packed with folks in their 30s and 40s who are presenting with the health markers of someone in their 60s. We're talking massive spikes in metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, chronic inflammation, sky-high anxiety, and this intense decision fatigue. People are out here trying to run on 5 hours of sleep, eating highly processed food, constantly stressed out to the max, and then, wondering why they need 3 huge cups of coffee just to drag themselves through the morning. Okay, let's look at section 1, the modern mismatch. To really get to the bottom of these symptoms, we have to zoom way out and look at our ancestral blueprint. For thousands of years, humans were out there walking like 10 to 15 miles every single day, living hyper-locally and totally synced up with the sun. Now compare that to today. For a lot of us, our biggest daily migration is just moving from the desk chair to the fridge, right? We're sitting for 10, maybe 12 hours a day, bathed in artificial light, trying to process this insane global exponential change. So the real reason we're all so exhausted is kind of hiding in plain sight. Which brings us to section 2, escaping the sun. So the first major system breakdown we experience actually has to do with light. This definitive book from Cambridge University Press points out a pretty mind-blowing fact. For basically billions of years, all life on Earth evolved under a strict natural light and dark cycle. That was literally the absolute rule of biology until, electric light came along in 1879. We just adopted the shiny new technology way before we had any clue about the massive toll it would take on our physical and mental health. Okay, so our internal clocks, which by the way live in this tiny cluster of nerves in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, are directly controlled by environmental light. Seeing natural light at dawn sets that clock perfectly. But when we're staring at screens long after the sun goes down, which, let's be honest, we basically all do, it completely scrambles those ancient biological signals. And this creates a really messy state known as circadian disruption. And by escaping the sun and just soaking in all that artificial blue light at night, we are accidentally triggering some huge downstream disasters. That short wavelength blue light blasting from our phones and TVs completely slams the brakes on our melatonin production. This leads to what's called social jet lag, hitting up to 75% of young adults. Even crazier, chronic night shift work actually causes cognitive deficits equivalent to aging 6.5 years. Plus, there is a massive correlation between this disruption and the 12% spike in US obesity we've seen in just the last 2 decades. Basically, our memory, our immune systems, and our metabolisms are paying a really heavy price for all this artificial night. Moving right along to section 3, linear brains, exponential world. If we zoom out from our biology and look at our actual cognitive capacity, we hit a massive speed limit issue. Based on algorithmic estimates of major sociocultural and tech trends, our world is moving 286% faster than it was in just the year 2012. I mean, think about that for a second. Our brains simply were not built to process reality at this kind of breakneck speed. Author Steven Kotler hit the nail on the head with this one. As he points out, our brains rely on linear processing. We intuitively expect tomorrow to look pretty much exactly like today. Just like your great-great-grandmother's life looked basically the same as her great-great-granddaughter's life. But instead, we're being forced to navigate a globally connected, exponential world, where complexity and technological power are doubling on an almost daily basis. No wonder we're tired. Let's dive into section 4, the burden of abundance. This exponential growth leads us right into this super fascinating paradox we see everywhere today. Abundance itself has somehow become our biggest burden. Think about it. We successfully solved historical starvation, right? But having an endless abundance of cheap calories just led straight to global obesity. We solved information scarcity, but now our smart devices hit us with an absolutely unbearable cognitive load. We survived literal apex predators, only to end up with severe anxiety just trying to pick a show on Netflix or choose between 50 different types of toothpaste. We've got way too many calories and just way too much information. So it really makes you wonder, right? How does this absolute endless buffet of modern options actually impact our psychology? When we're staring down this massive explosion of choices for our careers, our entertainment, our daily purchases, what happens to our ability to just, make a decision and take action? Well, it turns out giving our brains infinite options literally causes our ancient survival instincts to short circuit. Back at ancestral times, carefully overanalyzing a threat, like spotting a predator or figuring out if a plant was toxic, that saved your life. But today, when we deploy that exact same intense life or death energy just to pick a lunch spot or buy some shoes, it completely drains our mental battery. We get stuck in this totally exhausting cycle of perfectionism and hesitation. It's called analysis paralysis, and it is a one-way ticket to severe decision fatigue. Psychologists actually divide how we cope with this into two camps. On one side, we have maximizers. These are folks who obsessively hunt for the absolute perfect choice. And studies show they deal with way higher stress and end up significantly less happy. On the other side, we have satisficers. These are people who actively look for a good enough choice, make it, and just move on. By embracing good enough, they stay so much happier and totally dodge that cognitive paralysis. Trying to maximize every single option in a world moving this fast? Yeah, that is just a recipe for total misery. All right, let's look at Section 5, Surviving Modernity. So, the golden question, how do we actually push back against this evolutionary mismatch? Well, the science points to 3 highly specific, actionable steps to protect our biology. Number 1, limit that artificial blue light at night to protect your circadian rhythm. Number 2, try being a slow technology adopter to cut down on all that cognitive load. And number 3, actively practice being a satisficer. Seriously, embrace good enough choices to beat that analysis paralysis. Now, if you ever find yourself slipping up, maybe you're doom scrolling at 1 a.m. or totally stressing over some minor purchase, just remember this piece of advice. Do not overanalyze your overanalysis. It's a trap. Give yourself some grace here. Your ancient brain is honestly doing the absolute best it can in a completely alien world, and piling guilt on top of it, that's just another layer of cognitive load you simply don't need. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. You've seen the data. You understand how your biology is really wired now. What amazing things could your ancestral brain and body actually accomplish? And how much better would you feel if you just closed this screen right now, left the exponential world behind for a few minutes, and actually stepped outside into the sun?